Welcome to DGT Live. I'm your host, Johnny Walker, and today we're not talking The Walking Dead. We're not talking Marvel. We're not talking Star Wars. We're talking a little bit of, actually, a huge bit of fiction history with Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. We're going to be going over the novel series, maybe some comic as well as what some said was a movie. I'm not, that's debatable if that was a movie. So, no Tyler with me today. Tyler's never read a book in his life. Just kidding. Don't worry, folks. He doesn't watch the show. But I do have coming in from Canada. I have Mr. Steve McGeek from Primarily Critical. So, sir, thank you for joining me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And I also have quite a panel today. I have Elle from Another Mulligan. So thank you, Elle, for joining me. And you're coming in from Georgia, correct?
Yeah, right on.
Excellent, excellent. So we have formed this unholy, triangle for me being in Seattle, and we're going to break down everything Dark Tower. So just why are we doing the Dark Tower? These books came out years ago, and this movie came out. I believe it was last year. I, for one, was extremely excited when I heard. I've been hearing that the Dark Tower movie was going to be happening. It was going to be happening, and then it was in development hell for forever, right? Um, and then it happened, and whatever it was, it happened. So kind of
I'm getting the impression that you didn't like it.
Oh yeah, well, spoiler alert for 5 minutes from now. Yeah, I'm one of the more entrenched Stephen King fans. I guess I got obsessed with the Dark Tower, and I got obsessed with everything that had to do with it. So I watched all the Stan miniseries. I read all the connective books. It's really a rabbit hole to jump down. So first off, I'm gonna defer to my panel, and I'm gonna ask you guys kind of what your experiences with this IPL. So have you read all the books and have you watched the movie, comics? Where is your level of knowledge with the Dark Tower series?
God, it's been ages since I've even read any of it. And for me, I'm dyslexic, so I have a problem reading Stephen King, anyways. So it took me years to just get through anything. So, I mean, The Long Walk was laughable to even start, for example. But I will say that during the time of Barnes and Noble selling cassette audiobooks, I went out and got a bunch of those when they were on sale. And
That
I
counts.
pretty much, yeah, I listened to all of it that way. Much of it I actually slept through, so it had its way of meandering into my dreams, which was pretty interesting. And watching it in the movie, I'll go, there's a trend with butchering Stephen King's work in movies, and you can't possibly capture that much content and that much spread in 90 minutes, including credits. I was just like, that's including this. Are you
Eh,
serious?
Yeah,
So,
93 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I I didn't even have that much hope for it when I found that out. So,
Oh, sure. And so, Steve, what's kind of your background? And you have kind of a video podcast as well, where you kind of roundtable. I wouldn't say bad movies, but I wouldn't say the best movies sometimes. But
It's
90
kind of
minutes is a movie that you have to you got to get to that runtime to even be considered a movie. So they did that. So what's your overall kind of your history with this series?
well. I read the first three books. I've gone through the comics, but it was a while ago. Um, but I did a little research, read the synopses of all the books for this show, and I watched the movie today, and I, I I'm worried that I'm gonna bring your ire. I like the movie. I like the movie
Oh no,
for what it
that's
was.
great. That's great
Yeah.
because if we all just if this was just us dumping on it, then it's good to have a different opinion. So that's going to be interesting.
It was definitely too short. There was a lot of world building that didn't happen, but I felt like they took a whack at it and they did something, and it's not bad.
Wow. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's and just to tell the audience, this is going to be heavy spoilers. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't read it or seen it at this point, or got the cliff notes, then I apologize. Go spend 10 years of your life reading all these King books, and then come back and watch this. This is the carrot dangling, I guess. But yeah, just from the very first scenes of, and I haven't read, oh man, the Gunslinger in a decade more, plus, and I just remember how much that book hooks you. It's just, it starts out, he's uh roll, or I forget the exact terms, but, or the exact line, but the gunslinger sets out upon the wasteland in search of the man in black, and he stumbles upon this town of Lud, and Hey Jude is playing. So great choice on the Beatles shirt, Elle.
Right. I couldn't help myself. Any excuse.
Any excuse. That's awesome. And it's just such a rich book, and with the characters are what really drives this thing. It's Roland is such a cool, it's a western, it's a fantasy, it's sci-fi, it's a mess. It really is, and so it was going to be a tall task to do it. They were supposed to do more of a series with it, as far as like the on-screen things go, and just the fact that they just kind of summed it up in a movie. Do you guys think that it was more of a, do you think it's a sequel? Do you think it was just an adaptation? What are your thoughts? We'll go Steve.
My impression was it was a sequel. I think that some of the things I read there, he had the horn, so he was going through the temporal loop one more time for the last time. So the books went through this giant thing, and at the end, spoiler alert, he ends up at the beginning again, right? So it's this big temporal loop, and then and the movie is supposed to pick up where the last book left. So he's got the horn of Ilid or whatever,
Yeah.
and then and so now this is the last time, right? So he goes and it's, but we don't see the tower at all, which is upsetting. We don't see the tower other than like the long shot. We see like the silhouette, but he doesn't go to the tower. He just ends up killing the man in black. So that was upsetting. But yeah, I think it's a continuation.
Okay. And Elle, what are your thoughts on what they were trying to do?
I felt like it was more of a summary, and that from a director's perspective, they tried to build upon different characters that they thought were more fundamental to the major plot line and what they wanted to execute for it. And that's why I just thought in 90 minutes, I was like, they did what they could. And I sat there with my husband, who's never read it, and he thought it was phenomenal. And I was just like, right, okay, like I get it, because for those that don't know how expansive this really goes, it was wonderful and it was done well, but to know what else there is to it and how much was left out, if that was supposed to be the books from beginning to end, I like this at being a continuation, though. That makes me a little bit more satisfied with it, to be honest. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I kind of agree that I think they were going for that continuation, but that is a lot to ask for the audience to know, right? I guess that's the easiest way, because if you don't know about the time loop, then whatever. But even in the book series, Walter O'Dim, who is the Man in Black, played quite interestingly by Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right.
All right, all
Yeah, all
right.
right, all right. He's not really in the series as Walter. Okay, and we're gonna kind of have to break down a little bit for the uninitiated, for this series, because Walter O'Dim is essentially Randall Flagg, right? Randall Flagg has been in he's kind of the big bad of the overall sweeping King books. He's Randall Flagg's the big bad in the Stand. He's in Eyes of the Dragon. If you guys have ever seen Eyes of the Dragon, or not seen, but read Eyes of the Dragon, that's my favorite Stephen King novel of all time. It's incredible, and it's not even that big. It's not that thick. It's not Dreamcatcher or anything, which is just a slog to get through. Oh, it is, man. That was during the nose candy days for Mr. Steve.
I got scared of his books as soon as I saw The Stand. So
Oh, did you read The Stand?
no, no, I ran away.
Oh man, it was tough. Elle, did you get to The Stand?
I got halfway through and I had to return it to the library. I didn't buy it, but I was just like, I'm almost there. Okay, I get it.
Fair enough. And God's hand and nuclear bomb at the end. It's like that's the kind of thing is that's Stephen King, and you love him or you hate him, and most people love him. But he gets very descriptive. He gets very long winded, as I am right now. But it's in character. We're not Stephen King, but. So right, yeah, the character of Randall Flagg, yes, I get it, and he comes back as Randall Flagg in the series. But they gave so much credence in the movie to Walter O. Dim, the Man in Black, which at the end of the Gunslinger, spoiler alert, he just kind of dies after a time skip. So for you guys that read the series, were you as kind of dumbfounded that they did that? Were you hoping for more of a Randall Flagg esque villain, even if it was still portrayed by Matthew McConaughey?
You mean he was too bad?
No, like did because like I said, in the Gunslinger, the Man in Black, they never they catch up he catches up at the end of him, and they have that conversation. Roland goes unconscious, and there's like a 20-year, or actually it's quite a bit of years time skip, and then by the time he wakes up, Walter's dead. So
Right.
and then later on, it's like the other iterations of Richard Fannin. I want to think he has all these other names, and I thought it was going to be more of a
Right.
traditional Randall Flagg coming into the movie.
I didn't have a lot of preconceived notions for the Man in Black, and Matthew McConaughey. I think it was one of his better performances. He maybe played it a little too strong. He was a lot of people. He was liked at some point in the novels, right? I mean, he wasn't like all just terrible a person, But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Elle, what did you think about just? I guess we could just say, what do you think about Matthew McConaughey's portrayal of the big bad?
um, I it was off-putting at first, I'll be honest. It kind of threw me off really, really hard because I wasn't expecting that. I mean, having seen who they cast for it beforehand, I kind of tried to prepare myself, but actually sitting down and watching it, 'cause I saw it yesterday, I'm like, well, what? And I don't know. I think he did what he needed to do for the role. I wouldn't have maybe cast him. I don't know who I would have actually cast for that role to begin with, though. That's such a difficult place to be in.
Sure, and talk about. I mean, the casting of this movie. From day one when they announced who was playing Roland, met some kind of pushback because people that do love this series tend to be very protective over it. I thought it was awesome. I'm like, put Idris Elba everywhere. I want him to be the next James Bond. I think I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um,
He could do it, that's for sure.
absolutely, he could. He's charismatic. He's everything. The only thing that I'm like, is he old enough? But let's talk about the good performances, which I think he did. He knocked out of the park. If they decide to go forward with this, if he's rolling, I'm in. And the kid
Hmm.
that played Jake Chambers was surprisingly pretty good as well.
He really was. I think he portrayed the dancing on the line of his own sanity for a while really well, too.
I pulled a piece of trivia off IMDb. It's a list of all the people they considered for Roland. Daniel Craig, Christian Bale, Viggo Mortensen, Javier Bardem, and Mads Mikkelsen.
Ooh. Javier Bardem was really attached to it for a while too, and I thought that was gonna be the one, and then they switched it to Idris Elba, and I liked it even more.
I liked him. I liked Idris. Is that how you pronounce it, Idris?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
Yeah, I think Idris Elba did a really good job with that role personally. But, you know, as someone that reads it, you just kind of hope that it's going to be someone that looks similar to Clint Eastwood because there's so many drops to that you just kind of envision this good, the bad, and the ugly kind of dude just roaming around gunslinging.
And that's completely fair. Like I said, people, definitely people that read the series and everything have that. It's it came out in the series started in the 70s and ended in the early 2000s. Which people were going nuts about. They had, I think he had like a 15-year gap between the Wasteland, which is book 3, and Wizard in the Glass, which is book 4. And pardon my French, but the Wizard of the Glass was the biggest pile of shit ever. And, coming back into that, we're just like, oh my god, it's like backstory now. Like they're on a train, all this stuff is happening, and this is what you're coming back to, you asshole. That is Stephen King, for better or for worse.
Well,
There
I
was,
mean, during that time too, didn't he have that accident? He was actually hospitalized. So I always pictured that as like his way of refamiliarizing himself with the story so he could go, okay, right, right, right. Now this. Now let's get back to it.
Sure.
he does a lot of stories within stories. It's almost annoying.
Yeah.
Especially with this series, right? I mean, you get everything from every other book. Like I said, The Stand, Salem's Lot plays a big part of it with Father Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get Harry Potter in there. I mean, it's just it's an absolute. And then of course he writes himself into there. A little bit of a vanity piece, but almost like a little bit of a bio pick for a little bit. And hey, it's his baby, and he did it well.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like anything else out there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And just talking about, and some of it's just going to be a travesty to me if this movie is it, because we didn't get like beloved characters like Susanna, or
Eddie.
Eddie. Thank you. Oh my god, if we don't get what's his name, I almost said Logan Paul. That man, the internet will explode on that. Screw you, Logan Paul, but that's a whole other show. What's his name, the guy from Breaking Bad? If he doesn't play Eddie at some point, I'm just gonna freak out. You guys see Breaking Bad?
Oh,
Yeah,
I've
was
seen
that the
Breaking
dude
Bad.
that played Jesse Pinkman?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I can't remember the actor's name.
me neither. I just remember him as Jesse Pinkman.
Hey, Pinkman, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll say Jesse Pinkman, but I mean, if he doesn't get to play Eddie, we riot, right? It's like he
Right.
and then and Odetta too, or Odetta, Susanna. She's gonna, whoever is brave enough to tackle that has a lot to do.
That's a dynamic person, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Some Sybil stuff going on there.
Yeah. Did you guys go down the rabbit hole kind of deeply like I did? Did you guys read kind of the other? I know we talked about The Stand a little bit, but did you guys get into Salem's Lot, or kind of?
Well, I know that there was some stuff or some speculation with the mist and things like that having to do with it, and how they touch on some of the beasts or some of the problems with the Dark Tower actually releasing these monsters out. And
Mhm.
I didn't get to dive too far into it, but I was like, I remember this being a thing because, again, mind you, that's probably been, I don't know how long.
Did you guys see the Pennywise sign?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And see the tarantula drop down onto the ground where he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I see that. Or the boy playing with the car in his
Oh, yes,
room.
that's right.
There was a Saint Bernard walking around outside, the twins. I
You
was
got
just like, I see, I
the
see.
Herbert Hotel on the
Yeah,
drinks table, right? In The Shining.
Right.
absolutely,
Shining.
absolutely. They tried to nod as much as they could to other movies, but unfortunately, apparently, there was a lot of franchise problems. Right, they couldn't get a lot of rights to make more references. But so I
That's a
heard.
great point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think another huge missed opportunity is, they did, like you said, they did include just the kind of Pennywise sign with how great and wonderful that, it turned out. They could have looped those movies together, and it really could have helped it out too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It would have caught so much momentum off of that. But have some questions about. Have you guys ever seen Rose Red?
Hmm.
No.
Okay, so I'm always trying to find out the link between the Dark Tower and Rose Red.
There's a couple of Loman references, which was another really cool part of the movie. I think they did the Loman really well. That is exactly how I kind of saw them in my head, is like these uncomfortable humans, like with stitching and stuff. And that's the heartbreaking thing, is this movie had great things. Just give me more than what they did, and get rid of Matthew McConaughey.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. They could have taken their time. Everybody going into this movie knew that it was going to be an epic monster, right? So they could have made a 3 hour movie and apologized to no one. But they picked a style, and that was it. I guess there was no change in their mind.
I have to say, I was hoping that they were going to go with like a Game of Thrones style recording schedule. Like, let's go ahead and do this as a big series. Let's try to get HBO or somebody to fund us. And let's stretch this out. That way we can expand on every detail that we want or need to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would have been great, and that's kind of what Universal was going to try to do when it had Ron Howard attached to it. I think Ron Howard wound up being one of the executive producer credits on the movie, but it was supposed to be the first movie, and then it was going to go to a season on Netflix, and then it was going to be another movie, and then another season on Netflix. And Netflix, that everything was so interchangeable, so it could have wound up on HBO or whatnot, and it really could have been the next Game of Thrones. Instead, we got Westworld.
I don't know. I kind of like Westworld. There's parts of it that I enjoy. I can't help it.
Okay, fair enough. Another show, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, I haven't dived into it, but I've heard great things. So I will get there eventually. It's just there's far too much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's no Game of Thrones, right? I mean, it's
No,
Westworld,
it's not.
but it's not.
Oh,
It was supposed to be that passing the baton to this another giant IP, and it would have just been just beautiful if that IP would have been the Dark Tower. And at this point, it's just like we're gonna be in a Fantastic Four kind of thing, pulling out another Marvel reference, but it's like, okay, so here was the first one, and it didn't do so hot, so now there's gonna the studio's gonna be more involved in the next project, and that always presents its own problems. So it kind of worries me that we're never ever gonna get to see what the Dark Tower was supposed to be. Now, Steve, you said you liked the film, so tell me, what did you like about it?
well, okay. First, I don't understand how a movie that made $50 million, I'm reading here, is considered a failure. But I like the movie. Keep in mind, I have not read all of the books. I've read the first three, and it was a long time ago. Um, I, I wanted a weird Western dystopian, futuristic kind of. I wanted to see a robot bear. I didn't get to see that, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I liked it. I mean, I don't think they made any glaring mistakes. In my humble opinion.
They did a lot of cool effects with the gun. I ain't gonna lie. I mean,
Yeah.
there was some cool imagery in it, but it was just so just like, okay, they're here, they're here, they're here. Now it's done. You guys love
Yeah.
Hmm.
it. All right. See ya. Never.
Well, I mean, that's what I was expecting too for that time frame too. So it's like, the Dark Tower has so much going on in this series anyways that if you've got that time frame, it's just going to go, whoop, all right, now we're at this plateau for a long time of being high energy and all this shit going on all the time, and then it's the end. But I will say that there was a crazy fight scene that as it was happening, I don't know if it was just me, but in my head, it's like I could hear Mortal Kombat stuff happening. Like what was it? Roland hit the guy off of the top of the building that they were on. Sorry, I had a brain fart. And they crashed through the top of the bus and continued fighting inside of the
Oh
bus and
yes.
walks out and the guy gets hit by a car. And in my head, I went, fatality. But I'm just like, what just happened here? That looked like it was straight out of Mortal Kombat because I remember the guys falling off into the pikes and stuff and they just went into a bus instead and then he dies anyways. I'm like, that was just unimportant in a lot of ways, but it was amusing to me, just on
Oh,
a side
sure.
note.
It completely deconstructed towards the end to complete just action movie, schlock. It was just like, okay, now there's stuff in it. We need to wrap it up somehow. So things and it's like, oh god. And and the thing was, it's like, okay, if you were gonna give us a short movie, then fill it more with interesting things, not this weird subplot with Jake and the stepdad, which went nowhere, and Jake with his mom,
Mm-hmm.
which that relationship went nowhere, and all these things. It's just like he got to he got to the door, or the house, rather, with the door demon, and that scene actually worked for me. I like that scene quite a bit, but and that was something that came out of book two. So they did pull stuff out of each book. It's just like it just needed more time to breathe. They could have made it an hour longer, and we could have gotten Eddie and Susanna, unless they're going to give us more. But I see nothing that has to do with any planned sequels, and that's bad news coming from a movie that's already been out for a year.
Yeah, I see exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah, I completely agree there. It's kind of sad because I did sit there at the end and go, so Susanna, what kind of happened there? And I was sitting there looking at it because, again, I didn't look at it with the view that this wasn't a pickup. I guess I brain farted big time on the loot part, but when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that is the thing. So in my head, I'm watching this and I'm going, there's entire books missing. What's happening?
No Blame the Train. No
Yeah,
weird
no,
Wizard of Oz. Oh,
he found out about the portals and then just jumped
And
right
just
there.
went in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not to the tower, which
yeah,
is
yeah. Like
Yeah, no, we never touched the tower.
right.
No.
We just see children's screams hitting it from a far away, and I'm like, what? This
it doesn't make any sense.
Where was this?
Yeah, I know what they were trying. I think they were trying to do the whole breakers thing, and that was in book six, Song of Susanna. So it went quite a bit. But I don't even think they were inherently children or anything. So that was a whole other thing, and I'm like, okay, so that's what makes me worried, because it's just like, okay, you took stuff from the later books, but you left out all the cool stuff. I mean, there's so much juiciness, like the things from the Mist, like you said, Elle. Those creatures are I think in the actual Dark Tower proper is at the end of book three when they're writing Blame the Train, and they're kind of going through the different worlds, because in the
Right.
book they didn't just use these like sci-fi looking portals all over the place. They actually had to find these different areas, and this train was one of them, and they're passing through, and you got to see where the mist was kind of cleared off, and you got to see these abominations, kind of skittering around and stuff, and that's where the connection was to the mist. So
Right. And
ah,
then we really don't address the what the tower is protecting everybody from, right? Okay,
Right.
the bad monsters, but I mean, what do they look like? I want to kind of see them, and or no, he calls it hell. He's protecting it from hell, but I mean that's pretty vague.
yeah. When in doubt, say hell. It's like,
Sure.
ugh. And no, we got one Crimson King reference on the wall, where the door demon was, but
I
no
saw
Crimson
that.
King.
Nothing else. That's
Oh,
such a
wait,
missing element.
yeah. Didn't they tag the pig bar? Uh,
Yeah. Oh, what is it called? It's like the slaughtered pig, or no, it's something nice. I
yeah.
forget, but yeah, and no Father Callahan either. So that whole he was such a big part, from book five on, of the series, and one of my favorite parts of the series too, because I said Eyes of the Dragon was one of my favorite, or was my favorite King book. I think Salem's Lot, just as a standalone, was probably my second favorite. And I'm not even a big vampire person, but man, Salem's Lot is just one of the most perfect books I've ever read.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out.
Oh, it's super good. Elle,
So
you're a Salem's Lot fan?
I haven't ever read it, but I do remember watching some series that was Salem's Lot, but that was when I was probably in like middle school or high school. I checked it out, which high school's when I read a lot of this, so it's kind of, but Just being honest. I am curious, though, on another note. If this was everything and this was supposed to be a summary of it all, what do you, because I could be brain farting this out, what was the reference to Wolf's Calla? Did I just miss a lot of the big things for that? Or because I'm sitting there going, is this one of the missing books here? What's happening here?
Zero.
No reference to that book whatsoever.
Nope.
No.
That was one of the best books of the series for sure.
Yeah, it was.
That was
And
where
I'm
we got
just
the
sitting
Harry
there
Potter
going,
references.
it is. And I'm just going, what? Where did this entire thing go? I get the loop idea, but wouldn't that still at least be referenced?
Yeah.
Or we'd hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope for a lot. Steve, you said that you were the one that kind of read some of the comics, right?
Yeah. So most of them deal with Roland's childhood. Um, yeah. I wish I could expand, but it's all kind of blurry.
I understand. I had some of the comics too, and the main thing I can remember is the beautiful depictions of all the characters, and that's so
That's right.
horrible. I'm like, I like the pretty colors. I forgot the words, but I still remember that.
Someone
They
bought me with
expanded.
the first trade, and I didn't even take it out of the package, so I've never even looked inside. Although I do own the first trade.
Cool. I remember reading about him winning his guns by killing Court. Was it Court? Yeah. With his eagle, he sacrificed his eagle. That was very bloody. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we got some flashbacks with his father, who was the Allstate guy, and I was hoping for some Allstate. At that point.
You don't remember him as the president from 24?
Oh, I never saw 24.
Oh.
Maybe
Yeah, in the first season, he was the president.
It's a big break for Allstate, man.
Yeah, I was hoping he was just gonna bust out, like Flag or Walter walks by and starts kind of force choking him. Go right, son. Covered by Allstate, good hands. At that point, I didn't care. I'm like, this movie sucks. Just give me crap at this point. Make it entertaining.
I love how passionate you are about this.
I know. Like, I'm contacting you guys. I'm like, oh, don't worry. It's going to be whatever. And then I'm like,
he's like, it's casual. And he's like, no, I know everything about it. I bleed crimson, man. Like,
let's burn Matthew.
Everybody pick it outside of his house. Are you ready? I've got my signs. I brought some for you, too. Don't worry. We're all equipped.
Sorry.
I'm there, man. Let's do it.
It's all good. Well, there.
This is what happens when I do a sober show. So the beer actually tones me down enough to be able to have a nice, calm conversation. Now I'm just all freaking out. So, anyways, what'd you guys do today?
I had to watch my 2-year-old most of the day, and I was researching for this, and that's about it. Dishes.
I did the same thing, man. I've got a 2-year-old too.
Hey. I got more. I don't have a 2-year-old anymore. My youngest is 4 now. 4, 6, 9, and 15.
Holy crap.
2 and 6.
2 and 6. Nice.
Yeah.
I just got my 2-year-old.
Hey, we're all busy. 1 or 5, it's all busy, right?
Oh yeah.
And as you can see, this when I read this series is when I didn't have any, and I had plenty of time to sit there and get mad about silly things like that.
It's not silly, man. It's cinema.
Yeah. It's an art. Oh man. Any chance?
Well, I mean,
for a Dark Tower primarily critical in the future, Steve?
Oh, well, if they make another movie, I'll definitely get into it. We'll probably hit another Stephen King book or two that have been turned into movies. I'm Primarily Critical is very much like a book club. We all sit around and talk about a movie per episode every Monday at noon on primarylycritical.com, and we also have the YouTube channel. But it's a labor of love, and we've been doing it for a few years now. So we're actually getting into I'm hoping we're doing a good job now. So that's my story.
I thoroughly enjoy it.
Good.
Heck yeah, man. Find your groove.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That is it. Yeah. So, what else? What else about Stephen King before I let you guys go?
Where was his cameo?
Oh, he didn't cameo.
That's what I mean. He cameos in every movie and did not cameo there.
Yeah, and I don't blame him. He didn't want to be attached to that.
No, he's like, don't put my name on this.
Right. Let's go into what were your guys' favorite Stephen King adaptations, film wise. Elle, we'll start with you.
The Shining.
Of course, right?
The Shining by far. I mean, you had Kubrick, and that's such a brilliant director in cinema anyways. So it's like you've got him moving the vision behind it. I think it's going to be beautiful. And then you had Jack Nicholson doing his method acting and going it mildly insane the whole time and just writing it out. It was amazing. All the symmetry that they applied there, all the hints and cues that stuff was about to happen. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie more than any depiction I've ever seen from anything Stephen King.
Shit, we should have done the Shining review. That would have been more that was a great breakdown, Al. I think they got an opening on Primarily Critical, right, Steve?
Absolutely. I really enjoyed the IP. Sorry.
Yeah. What's your favorite Stephen King adaptation?
Oh, The Green Mile.
Oh.
Yeah, I love The Green Mile. Good. Yeah, I cried like a little baby. It was awesome.
Yeah. I love Shawshank.
Shawshank, yeah.
Yeah.
Shawshank's great. And you guys are going to make fun of me hardcore, and I might lose all credibility. But I'm serious. I've never seen a Die Hard, and I've never seen The Green Mile. I know.
Sorry, I've never seen a Die Hard, but The Green Mile, that's kind of unforgivable.
Dude, man.
Right now, he can't even.
On a scale of 1 to even, just can't.
Oh, Die Hard is like a religion in my circle. Yeah, every Christmas, it's like, yep, gotta watch it. Gotta watch Hans Gruber fall from the building.
Oh man!
But everyone knows about that.
No, I said I'm gonna watch it now. No, I was joking. But yeah, like our last show or the show before, we did the Reanimator review, and it was great because Hans Gruber is also a character in that. So there you go. I don't need to watch Die Hard because I already saw Hans Gruber.
There you go.
Reanimator.
Problem solved.
Dunskies, right?
Now you just got to get on the Green Mile.
I know, and I'm sitting here for my Stephen King soapbox, screaming from the mountaintop, and never saw probably the greatest Stephen King movie ever made.
Well, is it a Stephen King movie at that point, or has it moved over to Tom Hanks? I mean, really, does he take over the responsibility at that? I don't know.
It stems from that beautiful weird brain of his, and I am looking. The newest one that they say is in production is Doctor Sleep. I heard that's starting to get some looks, and if you know about Doctor Sleep, that's kind of the sequel series to The Shining. So it's all about adult Danny. Yeah. So that's gonna be interesting. Are you guys psyched for that if that becomes a thing?
I had no idea that might be a thing, but I'm very excited about it now that I know about it. Awareness.
Yeah, you
just
introduced me.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome.
Hot scoop, right? Breaking news.
Absolutely. They're also making the sequel to the It, right? So that's good. That's gonna be fun, right?
Did you guys enjoy that movie?
I have to say I haven't seen the remake. I haven't seen the new version, so I'm just gonna hide over here. What do you guys think? Go ahead and talk about it amongst yourselves.
Well, the story's not over. It has a continuation, And even in the book, my understanding is that in the middle it takes a break because Pennywise comes around every 20 some odd years, right? So they first deal with him as kids, and then the second movie they deal with him as adults. So it's going to be really fun to watch what they do because they did an awesome job with the first one.
Mhm.
Are you on board with the Tim Curry version, or did you like the remake more?
I like the remake more, sadly, but I like Tim Curry.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that movie is just going back and watching it, like the original it, and it probably scared the shit out of us as kids. But I watched it the other day, and I'm like, man, this doesn't hold up.
No, no, they don't. They fade away.
Oh my God. See, Tim Curry and I was scared of bathrooms for a while. I was just like, I was a kid and I'm like, nope, there's time limits now. I have to make sure my foot's right there to flush the toilet so I can wash my hands real quick before it gargles down and I'm out of there. Like nothing happens. It doesn't come back up and stuff. No, I'm out.
Does it stick with you? Like, are you still like? Could you watch it now and just like kind of be like, oh, it's a silly thing, or does it still kind of affect you?
Oh my God. I'm sure I'd be fine with it now. The only thing that might get me is I'd be like, my kid, and just think about my son in that situation. And I'd be like, I can't do this. And then that'd be it. But, you know,
Oh
Aw.
yeah. One that does that I could watch that I if I watched it today, and I'm still like watching it through like closed fingers is some scenes of Pet Cemetery.
oof.
If you guys seen that, like especially with the scene with Zelda, for some reason that's bothered me when I was a kid, and it still bugs me now. And I'm just like, oh, it's like nightmare fuel right there, no matter what age you are.
I barely remember it. I barely remember it.
Well, Steve, you got a lot to do after this
I
podcast.
do. I do, really. I mean, I consider myself a movie expert. It's a sham, I tell you.
Oh my God.
You're doing just fine. I got some to watch. I got to watch every Die Hard and Green Mile after this, so don't feel bad at all. Ugh. But yeah, I think
Ugh.
that is the Dark Tower. To sum it up, the books were a masterpiece. If you want to put in the time and the effort, there is some real value there to get out of it. It is kind of a I remember back in the day just and I think we talked about this on our on the other show that had to do with Magic Elle, where I said that I used to DM playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was in my 20s, and I used to center some campaigns around Coheed and Cambria songs. Well, I definitely also centered some DM campaigns around Dark Tower scenes and characters. And
I don't see how you can't.
I know,
Yeah.
Yeah. You got
yeah.
to pull some ideas from there. That place, that's a rich tapestry right there.
Oh,
Yeah, it is. When speaking of Coheed, by the way, I'm glad you kind of touched on that. I was so forgotten about a lot of main things in the Dark Tower that I actually forgot Walter's name. So the whole time I'm going, it's not Wilhelm. It's not Wilhelm. It's not Wilhelm.
Wilhelm
It's not
Ryan,
Wilhelm.
right?
Yeah, and I'm just like, his name's not Wilhelm Ryan. Why can't I think of his name? And then when they finally say Walter, I'm like, oh yeah.
It probably would have been more
God.
riveting if it was written by Claudio Sanchez. At least if he wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, I think that would have been a pretty amazing interaction. But maybe Matthew McConaughey will be Wilhelm.
All right, all right.
You still get another chance. All right, all right.
I'll always take the bait on that one. So, yeah, if I'm gonna rate the movie from and I'm rating a movie that's been out for a year now, and that not a lot of people see. You said it made 50 mil, so some people saw it, but
Oh,
I'm
let me
gonna give this
clarify.
movie. Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it.
Uh,
Go ahead.
the budget was 60 million, and it made 11.8 million.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, 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 no. Yeah, that's kind of a fart in the wind, in as the industry would say.
Fart in the
Mind-boggling.
wind. Sweet biscuits McGriddles.
That's it. Insert slide whistle.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this movie a solid 1.8 out of 5. I use decimals on this show. So much wasted potential. Um, great imagery. They did some cool things with the Loman. They did some fun stuff with Roland. Roland was great. Idris Elba did all he could. The kid that plays Jake Chambers, I apologize, I forget the name of the actor. Um, some good stuff, some real cool stuff, and the rest was just a big pile of shit. Elle, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give Dark Tower the movie?
Um, from a perspective of someone that would have forgotten most of it and went into it, it was probably like, I'd say a 3, because there was continuity issues, things like that, where I'm just like, what the hell happened? And but reviewing things and remembering things as it went along, I would say a solid 1.919. Just
Ooh.
kidding. Haha. Or 1408, But I would say probably a 2. I mean, I give it a little bit extra because they tried, and you can't expect too terribly much. It's just,
D for
you
effort.
never do. Yeah.
Mr. Steve McGeek, your
Yes,
resident
sir.
apologist. What did you think?
Just
um, you know, I say I'm a movie critic, but I just love movies so much. We'll give it a 2.7. 2.7.
All right.
We don't want to hit the halfway mark because that'll upset the purists. But we'll go 2.7.
It's okay. There's only 30 people that maybe watch this show, so
Hi, 30 people.
Hi, everybody.
you don't have to worry about upsetting too many people. All right. Yeah. And did this podcast light fire to go back and revisit those novels, Steve?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I got all excited and because I was reading the summaries, but I'm like, I can't. I don't have enough time to plow through a book. So, but I definitely want to read it now. My wife recommends the whole thing. She read the whole deal, so I have all the books. So
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, now I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us here on DGT Live. I want to thank my panel. Elle, where can everyone find you?
Well, I'm just kind of blowing in the wind right now, but I mean, we have some stuff going on YouTube at Another Mulligan. You can check us out there. We have some of a basic series going on, and who knows where we'll end up landing once the breeze finally stops moving. So,
excellent. And I, from what I hear, or from what you told me, rather, is you're a big fan of the Stranger Things series. So,
oh my God,
if I could see a
yes.
future, guest appearance on DGT Live, I'd love to have you back to discuss that.
Oh, far out, man. Definitely. I've done some crazy research into that too.
Perfect. Mr. Steve, where can the good kids find you, sir?
the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of me is at Steve McGeek on Twitter. But I have my little show that I do with my buddies at primarythecritical.com, and it's always active over there. So I think that's it. Yeah, I got a few projects in the works, but they're a long way off. So
Hey, projects are projects, right? They're not institutions.
absolutely, yeah.
And you could find me, Johnny Walker, aka John Dunning, right here on the They Said We Said YouTube channel, demonetized as of February. Again, thanks a lot, Logan Paul, for that. But that's again another show. But yes, you could find me on Twitter at OrzovDunn. Yep, that's a Magic Gathering reference, people. And you can also find me on Facebook just as Jonathan Dunning. So come and say hi, come talk about Dark Tower. We talk about Marvel, Star Wars, Game of Thrones sometimes, The Walking Dead. Even if you want to talk Magic the Gathering, I will talk with you about anything that is pretty nerdy that you got beat up in high school for. So, yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for having me, man.
Always a pleasure, Steve and Elle. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.